Only if you're ready. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Divine and Egma, a podcast that talks about how to navigate through the complexities of the workplace as a modern day professional while simultaneously having a side hustle. We appreciate all of our audience members for taking some time out of their day to tune into another episode and look forward to providing you all with some value through our show today. My name is Sarah and I will be the host for this podcast. This podcast will be available on all platforms where you can find podcasts, including Spotify, Amazon, Apple Podcasts, and we're also on YouTube. So let's get started. Hi Tumi, thank you for coming on to Divine and Egma. I'm so grateful that you're on today's show. I hope you're doing well. It's Friday afternoon. We're doing this podcast today. It's kind of sunny, but you know, I'm in London, you're up north. So yeah, thank you for coming on. I'd like to kind of start the podcast in the sense like, tell me how you're doing. How's your week been? How have you been generally?
Hey Sarah, thank you so much for having me on Divine Enigma. When you mentioned it's Friday, I wanted to break into song to be like, it's Friday. Gonna get awful. Is that how it goes? Anyway, I'm really excited to be here. I've seen some of your other shows and it's been really good. And yeah, it's been great connecting with you. So I'm really excited for what you're doing. I'm really glad to be on this platform. How have I been? It's April and it's cold. So I don't understand because May is about to start and I'm still freezing and I'm putting the heater on. And that's really bugging me. And you say that you live in London, so you imagine what it is in Newcastle. The devil is a liar.
Yes.
So that's about me. Finished work. Work has been good. We're constantly building and we're constantly hustling, but I'm glad to be here. How are you?
How am I? I have had an incredibly long week, but very productive week. I'm just grateful that I've got through to this week, but there's still more work to come.
Of course.
I had like the beginning of April, I went away for my birthday, and I feel like this month has just like flown by, and we're already entering May, and this year has flown by. I still feel like I should be in January, and it's just like flying by.
Yeah.
we're almost middle of the year, and I'm like, where's 2024 going? So it's going so quickly for me, I feel. Yeah.
How was your birthday, actually? Because I actually listened to you on a podcast and you were talking, the ADHD based podcast, shout out to them, you were talking about how your husband is very organized, he likes to pack and everything like that. And you're like kind of like spur of the moment. I'm more like you. Like I'm like, let's just have the vibe, let's just enjoy it and spur of the moment type of thing. And I think my wife is more like, let's pack it, let's pack your structure.
So it's kind of an oxymoron because I'm a project manager, which means I'm supposed to be very organized.
Yeah.
But in my own personal life, no, I'm not organized. I feel like the reason why I'm organized at work is because I'm getting paid.
Wow. Okay.
That's what I think it is. I think that's what it is.
The truth is coming out now.
Yeah, and it's a survival technique, so you have to do your job, otherwise, you know.
Whatever pays the paper, like for example, I'm a researcher and I'm an academic, so I'm supposed to be very meticulous, detailed orientated and stuff like that. And it's just by the grace that's helping me because in my personal life, no. Do you understand? But we push. They don't need to know that. The interviewers don't need to know that. But employers, if you're listening, I can still bring value. Don't worry.
Yeah. We can both bring value. It's just like in our personal life, we're a bit slack. But I'm grateful to my husband because he's naturally meticulous. He's more organized than me. Like I don't know where anything is, but he will tell me where everything is. So I'll lose something. He's like, oh, there it is. I'm like, oh, okay, there it is.
Like, let me be honest with you. Like, speaking about losing something, I woke up today and I couldn't find my phone. And I was supposed to be working from home.
That's me every day.
And the thing is, when you can't find your phone, it's a problem. I was supposed to post some content today, and it wasn't even happening. And I wanted to contact you about the podcast. Thank God you emailed me. I was looking around my house. There was a catch-22 because I wanted to start work and I had a deadline and stuff like that. I was looking for my phone, I messaged my wife. She was like, "Okay, cool. I'll sort it out when I come home." She came home now, saw the house. She was like, "You've messed up this house because you're looking for a phone." She looked at me. I was frustrated. 10 minutes. My beautiful wife found my phone. I was like, "What?" I actually looked at this before. But anyway, I still did my work and everything like that. Praise God. But that's just what it's like to be neurodivergent and be dyspraxic.
It's chaos. But it's
Yeah, that's
beautiful chaos.
beautiful chaos. Beautiful chaos. And I wouldn't have it any other way. It is what it is.
So I wanted to ask you, Tumi, can you share your personal journey and experience of being a Black man with dyspraxia? And actually maybe explain what dyspraxia is, because not a lot of people know what it is. People know about dyslexia and ADHD and all the other kind of neurodiverse conditions, autism, but dyspraxia and again Tourette syndrome is quite ones that people don't really know a lot about.
Mm-hmm. So, like, I always say that in the neurodivergent family, ADHD and dyspraxia and autism are like the older siblings, the ones that everybody knows about. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Dyspraxia is like one of those like siblings that people just ignore. The siblings where people come to your house and they're like, "Hello, hello," and then there's one that people just don't ignore. Dyspraxia is one of those. But then also there's Tourette. Um, there's dysgraphia, dyscalculia, bipolar. There's a lot of other things that we don't, when we talk about neurodiversity, we don't really mention those things. We can go into why that is, but yeah, dyspraxia is one of those things. And actually, people don't know that there's actually more people that have dyspraxia than have autism and ADHD in the country.
That's
So
interesting.
dyspraxia is actually more prevalent, according to the evidence. Like but it's more. There's more, but as one of my friends, Professor Nancy Doyle, shout out to her. Even though it's more prevalent, the ratio of research compared to autism is 50-1. So for every 50 articles that are published about autism, there's only one paper that's published about dyspraxia. So you can see the discrepancy. Anyway, I'm saying about dyspraxia. What is it? Dyspraxia, other people will know as developmental coordination disorder, because that's the kind of medical term, because there's not a medical consensus of what dyspraxia is. But dyspraxia is all about coordination. So if you think about the Latin, dys means difficulty, praxis means action, so difficulty in action. So we're talking about action, coordination, difficulties with gross and fine motor skills. So a gross motor skill could be running, swimming, walking and stuff like that. Um, you know, a fine motor skill could be the way you eat or the way you tie your shoelaces. Like if I showed you, I still haven't mastered tying my shoelaces, but you know, stuff like that, or typing or handwriting or reading quickly. But in addition to all of those things with coordination, we still have things that other neurotypes struggle with, such as organization, time management, forgetfulness, executive function, sleep, all of those type of things. In addition to all of that, I can't finish the description without talking about some of our strengths, because that's what, as a neurodivergent advocate, it's important to talk about the balance view. So dyspraxic can be very creative, very big picture thinking, um, very empathetic, have a lot of integrity, and they're amazing speakers as well. So that's quite a few. That's just a few of the strengths.
And what about your experience of being a Black man with dyspraxia, the intersectionality?
So let's talk about that. So I was I found out about dyspraxia when I was 4, and you know, I told you before that one thing that I always used to say is I knew I was dyspraxic before I knew I was black. And the reason why I say that, and the reason why it was a big deal, is like if you really deep black culture, Nigerian culture, but black culture in general, coordination is an important aspect. Because how many times have you been to your typical Nigerian party or African praise and worship, like in your church, and everybody's clapping in rhythm, everybody's doing things in step? That wasn't me. Do you understand? Or like as a black guy growing up, you're supposed to be good at sport. You're supposed to be on the football team or the best at athletics and all of this type of thing. That wasn't me. Again, how many guys bang out FIFA like consoles and stuff, but the hand-eye coordination, again, that wasn't me. What did that mean? Every game that I played with friends, I lost. Even though I wanted to win, I lost. Like I had to be good at, you know, playing against myself. Do you understand what I'm saying? And that and guys especially, but the world can be quite mean to people that when you find difficulties and get things strange and stuff like that. As a black man, understanding that I was dyspraxic meant that when you grow up, people used to tell people that, oh, as a black person you have to work 2 or 3 times as harder than your black white counterparts.
That irritates me sometimes. I actually find that quite problematic. But yeah,
No, but let's discuss that.
Yeah.
Okay. But then then I knew that as a dyspraxic person I would have to work harder as well. Like 2 or 3 times as harder than my neurodivergent counterparts. So there was a lot of internalized pressure that, wow, because I'm black and dyspraxic, I probably have to work 2 to 3 times as harder or 2 times 3 times harder. And I know that's very problematic. And we live in a world where now as things are changing and people are becoming more awake to, diversity and inclusion, you could ask yourselves, why do I need to work just as hard or harder than other people? But the reality is, there are systems that have been that the way society has been structured, you have to do what you have to do because we're not about surviving, we're about thriving, right? So that was a bit about my story. Um, to the point that when I was in year 11, I did 13 GCSEs and I got the award in my school for endurance because I just worked hard. I grinded it out. But because of the hard work and the bullying, because figure warning at school, I was called things like spastic and retard and stuff like that. It wasn't really great. Had a really bad impact on my self esteem and just how I saw myself in the world. Those two things combined meant that when I was 16, I had a mental breakdown and I couldn't take being in school anymore. And it meant that I had to take a year out and start again in year 12. And it was then that I got another diagnosis of dyspraxia. And it was a private diagnosis. And I would shout out to my parents because my parents made some decisions in my life that made things easier for me. And it was just because of the money that they had available. So, for example, being in private school, smaller classrooms, there was some therapy that they paid for dyspraxia that caused me to just get more coordinated and everything like that. That I had to do once in the morning, once at night. But even when I was 16 and I had that breakdown and everything, I got re-diagnosed and reassessed all off the NHS and stuff. And I think that's why I started the Black Dyspraxic, because I realized actually I'm so thankful for the privilege and the fortunes that I have and that have made me who I am. But I realized that a lot of people, especially people from my community, don't have the same privileges. And I wanted to advocate for them as well. But I know that sometimes it's not just a cultural issue, it's also a socio-economic issue. But a lot of people, especially at the back, they'll be like, there's nothing wrong with you. Did you not do your GCSEs? Did you not do your A levels? Have you not gone to a Russell Creek University? Just pray about it. I know all of those things. I believe in prayer, by the way, and I
Yeah, I
believe
do
that what
too.
I believe what God cannot do does not exist, and God is a miracle working God. However, um, sometimes your prayer needs to be, God, the brain that you've given me, how can I use it to glorify you? You know,
Yeah.
you know, your grace is sufficient. Do you understand? Give me the patience that I need. Give me the wisdom that I need. But you're not saying change who I am. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's yeah, that's one of the and my faith has been really important to me. I gave my life to Christ like when I was 6. I'm rambling, so maybe I'll stop there. But yeah, that's a bit.
No, when you were saying that, it made me think of I'm a Christian as well, but it made me think of a scripture about Paul who had a thorn in his
Yeah,
leg,
yeah,
and
that's
he
the one.
prayed for God to remove it but he never had it
Yeah,
removed.
yeah.
And that makes me think about neurodiversity. Like I remember very much when I was younger being undiagnosed with dyslexia and knowing that my brain wasn't like everybody else. And I used to
Mm,
pray to God, like, bro, God, would you like just give me a new brain? Like, take this brain
mm,
out and give me a brand new brain that can think properly because I'm just getting frustrated with the
yeah,
brain that you've given me.
yeah,
But over time, I've just learned that this is the brain I have and this is how my mind works. And I have to use it to my strength and not
yeah,
focus on what is not
yeah,
good. And look, what is not good about my brain? What is good about my brain?
yeah,
What can I gain from having a dyslexic mind?
yeah.
And it's taken me a long time to get here. Even
Hmm.
there are times, even I revert back to being ashamed or embarrassed of my dyslexia, but I have to go, no, 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 no. This is how you are,
Exactly.
and it's okay.
So this
Yeah.
is why sometimes I flip it. That I tell people that instead of praying, God, please take away my dyspraxia or my ADHD or autism, you can say, God, how does my how does this dyspraxia of my brain link to my purpose? What do you want me to do about it?
Mm,
What can I do with the brain that you've given me to give you glory? Hence why I did the Black Dyspraxic. Because I be like, yeah, I have difficulties, I have challenges, but you know what? With God, all things are possible. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's
hmm.
connected to my purpose. It's giving me a message. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's what it needs to be about. But so I think there's a lot more nuance because I tell people because I know there's some people in our generation that when they're talking about this kind of things, especially neurodivergence or disability and faith, they want to
Hmm.
kind of rubbish Christianity or rubbish faith and be like, nah, we don't need it, it's not relevant, rata rata. But
Mm.
we forget that even the medical science and just medical literature are it's just in the last few years that even those guys are realizing that actually there's a strength to autism and strength to the like these things are very, very new. And even if you think about the language, right? ADHD, what does the D stand for? Disorder. You understand what I'm saying? DCD, developmental coordination disorder.
Uh,
That DYS in dyslexia and DYS in dyspraxia is difficulty. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we can't deny that. Oh, there's nothing. It's only in the last maybe 2 decades with the advent of the word neurodiversity and the movement that is growing that has challenged that. And that challenge is a social justice challenge. It was like actually maybe this is because people are just different and there's variations. Do you understand? So yeah.
I was going to ask you this, but you've kind of answered it a little bit. But what is giving you the resilience, the determination to just believe that you can overcome obstacles? And how do you think that can help other people who may be in the same position as you? Like maybe they're going to school, or maybe they're in the workplace and
Mm,
they have a neurodiverse condition, or they might be masking their neurodiverse condition.
yeah.
How can they overcome and how can they have resilience like you to me? Because you see like a very resilient guy, because some people just might not have the same level of resilience you do.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that compliment is making me blush. It's bringing the dimples out. I can't lie. To be honest, I'll be lying to you if I answered this question without saying, first of all, the grace of God. God has helped me. I think my faith has caused me to become resilient. Because you're like, especially when you read scriptures and you're like, you know what? And when you like, if you really serve a God that can do exceedingly and abundantly more than you can ever ask or think, it changes your perspective. Do you understand? Or even scriptures that say things like, I have the mind of Christ. It's like, whether dyspraxic or not, I have God's mind is in me. Do you understand what I'm saying? And it allows me to do. So that perspective has really helped me to be like, step up. I think it's also, there's a part of me, I think for a long time, it's not that I didn't accept that I was dyspraxic, but I just didn't let it like limit me. It's like, no, like if everyone in my class is doing 13 GCSEs, I'm gonna do 13 GCSEs as well. Like, I think I was one of the people that came top of myself because I'm like, I'm not a doctor now, but back then I wanted to do medicine. And people were like, how can you do, like my mom, I remember people used to ask me like, you struggle with coordination, like dexterity, your handshake, how are you going to do surgery? I said, I don't care. This is what I want to do. And guess what? That propelled me in my A levels, and I got the medical offer. I just didn't get the grades. That's another story for the other day. I probably got distracted, but the thing is, it just had that mentality, and it made me want to go in. I went to uni, did medical science, and it was just I've never saw dyspraxia as a reason for me not to do something. Like my mom even used to say, if you want Tumi to do something, just tell him you can't do it. But with that being said, and I'm gonna just be real with you and level with you, the older you get, the older I become, and the more I find out about neurodivergence and advocacy and the statistics, it's sometimes harder to become as resilient as I was when I was younger. I think when I was younger, I used to have a little bit of an audacity. But the thing is, I think now when you're seeing, I'm 31 now, and you're seeing other people doing incredible things, you're like, wow, do you understand? But I always have to check myself, and I'm surrounded with incredible people to be like, no, no, I have source as well. I've
I
got something
think
to be.
I think
Yeah,
when you're younger, and not to take away from the neurodiversity, but I think when you're younger, you have that naivety, so you just think it's
exactly,
possible. But
exactly.
when you're older, like you've seen stuff that kind of knocks you back a little, you're like,
Yeah,
should I keep trying?
the reality, but I
Yeah.
feel like everybody needs to have that audacity because it's that audacity that's gonna cause you to go to work. It's that audacity that's gonna cause you to ask for more pay, to negotiate. It's that audacity that's gonna cause you to leave a job when you need to leave a job. It's that audacity that's gonna cause you to start that business. It's that audacity that's gonna cause you to level up. It's that audacity that's gonna ask a guy to approach that woman that he's been eyeing for the last few months. Like audacity and confidence is needed in this life. And maybe because I'm a Nigerian guy, Nigerians especially, we have it. We have confidence in abundance. I don't know why, but
We do. Yes, we do.
yeah,
And kind of like linking onto that, you talked about meeting the right woman, and I know you are married to me. You've been married for about 2 years. We had this
yeah.
conversation offline as well,
I don't know.
and you
I
talked.
didn't know you were gonna go there, but okay.
Yeah, we had this conversation offline, and you told me a story about how you met your wife and what you thought about in terms of being a dyspraxic man and neurodiverse man in having love and meeting the right
Mm,
person.
mm.
Do you want to talk to us about that a little bit?
Okay, okay. Let's just be story time, and let me just be a bit vulnerable. So one of the things about dyspraxia and my life journey is I learned about empathy and being very empathetic, and I like to talk. And when I got to the time of like 15, 16, I was getting bullied quite a lot, especially by the guys, the man them, especially because not good at football or not good at certain things that the guys wanted to do. And the people that actually treated me like a human, like a friend, were the ladies around me. I think the first person to call me her best friend as a teenager was a lady, and I was very very thankful for the friends, my sisters. that I've had along the way, and I'm getting somewhere. Okay, growing up as a teenager, then going to uni, the sisters kept on collecting, and sisters in church, sisters in university, and I was just like, actually, some of these sisters, they're looking kind of nice, you know. But you know what? What happened, and it happened quite a few times, is anytime I will approach, quite a few times I'll approach certain sisters to be like, "Oh, we connect. Can we go on a date? Can we do these things?" They'll be like, "No." Like, oh, not no like that, but no in terms of you're an amazing guy, but I see you like a friend. I see you like a brother, that kind of thing. And so growing up, especially in my early 20s, not even early 20s, even before I met my wife, like even like I always thought like the reason why girls didn't like me in that way was because of my neurodivergence. And so it was a very big insecurity of mine, because I would be like, I would even get things where girls would say, "I wish my boyfriend was more like you," or "I wish more men were more like you," and I was like, "Hold on," like I'm really confused, that type of guy that would talk on the phone to girls for hours and everything like that. You relate, or I was that guy on campus that I was cooking food, for people, walking people anywhere, everywhere, and stuff like that. And there was a lot of things, but when it came to actually finding love, it it was, yeah, people just didn't see me that way. Looking back, it was a great thing, because now I have incredible friends, but it
Yeah.
really, really affected my confidence, to the point that my mom said to me, "Actually, maybe you're just in the wrong market. Maybe you need to mix it up a bit, because maybe it's our it's our African women that just don't like disability, and maybe if you mix it up, you may be able to change your predicament." Now,
Yeah.
I'm all for equal equalities. I'm not a racist, but I need a black girl in my life. Like a black woman in my, I like chocolate. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And growing up, even growing up in Essex, been in schools or surroundings in white dominated spaces, I was just like, no, I want a black, I want a black woman and everything like that. And in 2020, I found my wife. Do you understand what I'm
During
saying?
the pandemic.
During the pandemic, the silver lining, the thing, and I'm that type of person, because I have this policy, kind of like interviews as well, but I have this. By then, I had already started the Black Dyspraxic, but even before that, when I speak to girls or anyone that is interested in me, I tell them about dyspraxia quite quickly. Do you understand? Because it's like, I don't want to waste your time, you don't want to waste my time,
Yeah.
etc. And by the way, I'm not gonna say that I didn't have relationships in my 20s. There were some ships, but things didn't work out, and I think this factor was a lot to do with it. I could be wrong, but my wife was like, "No, I see you for you." I remember, because my wife was living in Nigeria at the time, because that's where she was based. Um, Shout out to my Queen Harmony. If you're listening to this, I love you.
Yeah.
But I know one of the first gifts I sent to her was a book about adults in dyspraxia. And she started reading it. She said, "I didn't want to finish the book." I said, "Why?" I wanted you to read it so you have a real big understanding. She said, "No, because I want to know you for you. I don't want to see you based on dyspraxia. I want to know you. I want to love you for you. Because if I love you based on other things, I may treat you differently, because I know the culture, I know where I'm from, but I want to know. I don't want to. When I see you as my husband, I don't want to see the Black Dyspraxic. I want to know Tumi. Do you understand what I'm saying?" And she's been so accommodating, so understanding, but she's very, very reaffirming, in the sense that, yes, I know you have challenges, but I believe you can do it. So right now I can't drive, and she's learning to drive, and I've had driving lessons and stuff. She loves driving. She's like, "You're gonna drive eventually." Do you understand what I'm saying? Because she's like, "I believe in you," and I think she's also dyslexic as well, but just that understanding that she's here, and actually, to be honest, the fact that she's in my life is just the grace of God, because just how it worked out. Because funny enough, my mom that told me that I would only that maybe I should consider entertaining dating other races, which by the way, I'm gonna say again, I don't have a problem with, but it just wasn't my preference. Um, she she actually introduced me to my wife, current wife, because my mom and her mom were actually friends from uni.
Wow.
Yeah, and we did the whole long distance thing for a few years, and then we got married. And I still find it weird that and baffling that somebody will leave the continent of Africa to be with me. Like before she left, before she saw me, she had never been to the UK before, and she came to the country because of me, and we're doing it. You know, I say that my wife is not an immigrant; she's an expat of love. Do you understand?
Definitely, she went to the other side. She went from Africa
And
to
the
the
funny
UK.
and the thing is, I always say this. It's made me even think differently about, you know, how our parents said when I came in a suitcase and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is living that journey. Do you understand? And we
Yeah.
don't even
Yes.
realize. I don't think a lot of British-born Africans realize that struggle or how difficult it is,
No.
or even the whole process of getting indefinite leave to remain and getting a
Yeah.
passport. It's expensive, but that's another conversation for
That's another.
another day.
Yeah. It's struggle. It's not easy, and they're dealing with all the other stuff that comes with it. Because my
Yeah,
dad's no longer alive, but he came to
yeah,
the UK in the 60s.
yeah.
And yeah, he tells me stories about, when he first came to the UK, he actually settled in Birmingham, and he tried to sit there with his family there at the time.
Mm,
My dad was married before he met my mum, by the way,
okay.
sort of thing. But like, yeah, they literally had on the doors, no dogs, no Irish, no
Yeah,
blacks, that whole thing. He lived
yeah.
through that. And yeah, he used to tell me
Mm,
stories about how like it was very challenging when he came here, because he came here on a medical, like they were at the time they were asking lots of Africans to come to
mm,
UK to work in the NHS, and he
mm-hmm.
applied and he got a job working as a nurse. So that's how he got his like stay
Yeah.
there. But it wasn't easy, and he only got there and then he brought his family afterwards.
Mm,
So like, yeah,
it's not easy.
it's not been, it wasn't easy for him,
It
and
isn't.
he dealt with a lot of
Yeah.
discrimination, racism.
Like
It was rampant around that time. Like,
my dad was born in the UK as well in the 60s, and he was
oh,
actually in foster care. But he was like but he went back to Nigeria when it was like 9 or 11. And you
ah,
remember where people used to tell him, "Oh, you're going to be going back to mud huts and like tree houses and stuff." And as a young guy, he didn't think anything of it because he didn't know what Africa was like. But yeah, people were, and even when he wanted to come back in the 80s, because my grandma and my grandpa were were like working in the 60s and stuff like that and 50s
yeah,
in the UK, they actually didn't want him to go back. They come to the UK because of the racism and things that they felt. And this racism is still here. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
it's very different from how it was. Like how can you say no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, but
yeah.
stuff like that, you know? Like, you know, that guy that said what he said about Diane Abbott, that's how you know that it's
Mm.
actually still out there, you know? But
But
yeah.
it's hidden. Like, yeah,
It's
is that
it's
what
not even
Kanye West? Is that
it's
Kanye
not
West says it?
it,
Yeah.
it's not something. No, but the thing is, it's not even hidden. Sometimes
No,
it's
it's
actually
not.
not.
It's
It's
not.
actually not hidden. It's actually very obvious. But we move, and I think this is why, as black neurodivergent individuals, you're like, whoa. If that's how you feel about the color of my skin, how would you feel when I now tell you about my mind? How would you feel when I now tell you what I'm going through? Would you give me the opportunities? Would you? Do you understand what I'm saying? And this is why when we talk about intersectionality and it's the multiple marginalization, these things compound. The same way we have like compound interest or compound savings where things build on top. These barriers compound. And sometimes we know statistically they do, but then there's also an internal battle in every black person, but every black neurodivergent to not live by that and not to be not to live under that marginalization in a sense. I don't want to say not play the victim, but in a sense that you don't have to live by that narrative. Do you understand? It's not a woe is me, I'm black and dyspraxic, therefore I can't achieve anything. It's not. It's that's the reality. Yes, there's struggles. Yes, there's challenges, but we can still level up. But and the thing is, it's like just because I advocate and I make you aware of those challenges doesn't mean I'm playing the victim. I'm just saying, look, these are what it is. These are the challenges. These are the obstacles. Yes, there are systematic structures that host that make things harder for certain people, but it doesn't mean that these barriers cannot be broken. It doesn't mean that with the right network, with the right to pull and by the grace of God, things count. But it requires intentionality, it requires diligence, it requires being savvy, like all these things. Because, like I said, one of the reasons why I am the person I am today, yes, it's God, but I know that my parents were able to pay for certain things that certain people don't have, weren't able to pay for. Like money gives you options, right? I went to private
Money, yeah.
school. I went to private school. I my diagnosis with dyspraxia was done privately. You know the way the system is with the NHS, with public services, with the state school system, having like living at the mercy of the government, like it's not the one. But
Mm.
unfortunately, the reality is a lot of people are living like that, and especially a lot of people that have the same ethnicity as I do. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
And it's like it's not to say woe is me, but it's the reality. And like sometimes one of the reasons that we need to push for financial freedom and generational wealth, it's not so that we can flex. It's not so that we can go to Dubai or I know these things are great, but actually it's supposed so that we can have those options
Yeah.
for ourselves and for our children. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that we can be in a place where if we had a child that was neurodivergent, we can actually pay for that diagnosis and get that help. You know, we see things like, oh, Richard Branson, Daniel Radcliffe, they were neurodivergent people that people talk about. Yeah, but most of them came from middle class families. Most of them were in grammar schools or small schools where people were looking at and giving them the help and support. So you realize that sometimes when we talk about being black and neurodivergent, yes, these things exist, but actually the mechanism by some of the challenges is actually socio-economic.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I always talk about geographic inequalities as well, because I know that the realities of a white guy that lives in the southeast of England that is neurodivergent may be different from a white guy that lives in the northeast of England.
Yeah.
And these are
Yeah.
things that some people don't even talk about, but it's the reality.
I wanted to talk to you about your you do speaking engagements, and you've been quite successful as a neurodivergent influencer. I'm going to call you that. I hope you're
No,
okay with that.
you didn't just do that.
I'd
I'm
like
not an like the fan
yeah.
influence of these.
So you're somebody who has a impact on people in the neurodiversity space. So you
Okay,
influence
cool, cool,
people. So
cool,
I that's how I
cool.
see you as. I know
By
it's
the
quite
grace,
like I know it's quite a corny term that people don't really like, but
yeah.
that's how I kind of see you as. So how have you
Okay,
managed to kind of gain success in the neurodiverse world? Because we have a few black faces within the neurodiversity world, and you're one that comes up. You've managed to kind of pave your way around that, and
yeah,
you're an inspiration to other neurodivergents who are looking at you and thinking, "Oh, I can navigate my neurodiversity because of Tumi, or because of
bless,
we've got other people
bless you.
like Vivian who does ADHD,
Yeah,
babes. We've got Marcia who
yeah,
is the black dyslexic,
yeah.
and you fall into that category as
And the
well.
and the list goes on. Like
Yeah, yeah.
There's Remy, there's
There's
Onyinye,
Remy. Oh yeah, yeah,
there's a lot of
yeah,
and and there's yourself.
yeah.
Like,
Oh.
like,
I don't like to put myself too much, but yeah.
um, thank you for that. I would say, obviously, as I've said it enough, I can't do this without God. So let's just but with what I've been able to achieve with the Black Dyspraxic, I'm just gonna keep it very real. Teams, people have helped me. I have not posted one thing on the Black Dyspraxic by myself without somebody checking it. The person that helped me before is different from the person that helped people that help me now. But when I started, it was my friend that we went to school together, so she got it, and she has a social media company agency, and she also runs. I'm not sure if you know Vibes of a Black Girl.
Oh yes, I do.
Yeah,
I
and
do.
she's
Yeah.
also she's a shout to Emma. Like, yeah, she's a good friend of mine, and she helps me like with the logo, with the page and stuff like that. And that's how I started. But actually, before that, it was actually because I was invited to a talk by Remy Ray. And the reason why I was invited, and I think this is one of the reasons why I like to do, because she was looking for another black neurodivergent man to join a panel. And my friend, shout out to my friend Naomi as well, she saw that and she sent me on LinkedIn and said, "This is something I think you might be interested in." And I was just like, okay. It was for Black History Month 2019. I saw that and I was just like, yeah, I'm on that. I'm gonna do it. And I actually invited people, told a lot of people from my friends, my network, and like 15 to 20 of my friends were in the room. It was the largest participation in the room. Like I came with a tribe. You know, us Nigerian people, we don't like to just do things in silence. So I came with a multitude. And I really enjoyed it, just speaking about my truth. And it was the first time that I've done that. Not, and I say this all the time that it's not that it was the first time I've spoken about dyspraxia publicly, because I always share about dyspraxia, but it was in a church setting, in like testimony time, like just saying about how good God has been. Like even though parents thought things would be difficult, but this is what God has done. But now I would literally just transfer that to a more formal public setting. And from that experience, I'd already been thinking about the Black Dyspraxic anyway, because on my actual page, tag I used to tag the Black Dyspraxic before I started the page. But I was just like, that event was the catalyst to be like, no, I'm gonna do it. So I
Mm.
did that. 2019. Obviously, we know that 2020 lockdown, but George Floyd happened and everything like
Yeah.
that. We're just kind of just riding that, just, I don't want to say riding that wave, but I was like, okay, these are the issues. And I just started just talking about this. Do you understand? And I think in 2020, I remember um one post that I made and I tagged a friend, Nancy Doyle, who's the founder of Genius Within. She's become a really good friend, mentor now. But I didn't know that she was also a contributor to Forbes magazine. And then she was just like, oh, we started talking. She was like, oh, can you contribute to my magazine to Forbes? I was like, of course. And then that was like in 2020. And like since then, it's just been just, yeah,
Just
just
getting
different things.
building momentum every
Building it,
day.
building, and then also focusing on my niche, right? And I love the fact that now I'm dyspraxic because there's a lot of people that talk about dyslexia, ADHD, and stuff, but very few people that are dyspraxic. Do you understand? That talk
Mhm.
about it a lot, especially in our community. But then also trying to bring that masculinity piece, because I don't even think we've talked about them a lot of it, because there's a lot of other things that, because as a man, there's certain
Mm.
expectations that you're supposed to be good at. You're supposed to be the person that does DIY. You're supposed to be the one that's good at finances. You're supposed to be the one that's going to drive the family. These are things that are not naturally me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm.
And I feel like I need to do what I can to encourage and inspire not just black people and not just the world around me, but men that say, you know what, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to have difficulties and talk about them. Do you understand what I'm saying? And you can talk about them in a way that inspires people and also create an income for yourself if that's what you want to do. And
Mm.
it's just different things like that. I've had fun. I've had good times. I've spoken to podcasts. I've been part of boards and stuff like that. But we're just getting started. But another thing that I wanted to tell, like part of my journey, is that I've been part of the Dyspraxia Foundation, a charity that has like recently announced that they were going to close. But I've been part of that charity since I was 16, 17.
I was going to
And
ask you about that actually, about the charity closing down. I mean, how has that made you feel if we don't have kind of the support for that particular
yeah,
niche
it's
neurodiverse condition?
yeah, I didn't expect it. I was like, wow, okay, because especially the reason why I didn't expect it was because right now neurodiversity is the awareness is increasing. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And so it hurt, it cut deep, but it made me realize. It actually made me more intense about my vision and my purpose. That okay, cool. I need. That's why when I was in the Houses of Parliament this week, sometimes you have to slide that in as well. When I was there, I actually had to tell them that, you know what, we are talking about the neurodiversity screening, but we need to talk about dyspraxia. We need to talk about Tourette's. We need to talk about all these things. And I think it just goes to show that in the cost of living crisis, when things are low, and especially when there's been inflation and there's been so many economic mismanagement by the government, certain charities that are doing amazing work sometimes have to fold. It's harder to get funding right now because everybody's feeling the pinch, and
Hmm.
minorities unfortunately miss out.
It hits us harder
Yeah, it
actually,
hurts
I
us
would say.
because some of these charities in the voluntary sector support the minorities. That minority could be it could be due to education, it could be sexual orientation, it can be a disability. There's a lot of charities that pick up the slack that government and the free market cannot do. Do you understand?
Mm.
And so we need to be careful, and this is why, yeah, economic decisions affect people. Sorry, I'm an economist, so I could, yeah, talk about that. But yeah.
I wanted to talk deeper into what it means for you to navigate daily as a dyspraxic. So, like for example, part of your work is to do speaking gigs, but the daily like challenges that you might meet each day that you have to deal with as
Oh,
a
child.
dyspraxic, and people
Oh,
and people to understand that.
okay. So even just challenges. Sometimes I struggle with sleep, and sometimes I
Mm.
struggle to get a good sleeping rhythm. And like, yeah, before I start, I want to say I haven't figured out everything. So
Yeah.
sometimes because of struggling to sleep, we struggle to wake up on time. Now the challenges start from the morning. Organization. Where did I put my not even my top? Where my underwear? Where's all of this type of thing? You know, my wife sometimes looks at me and be like, "How did you survive without me?" And the funny thing is, before I got married, it's not like I was living with family and stuff. I've been in Newcastle for like some time before she came, you know. So once you find everything, putting things together, I still struggle to tie my belt because when you're doing the whole thing at the back and everything like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
or grooming myself. So you know how guys, especially black guys, you can tell if your hair is not combed. Do you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
it's not,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the thing is, I think the way I've got around that is I don't necessarily live in places where there's a lot of black people. So I say I've lived in Newcastle, lived in York, lived in Exeter, but those kind of type of things. So can you see? I haven't even left the house, and there's already challenges. Do you understand? That sense of time. Okay, I need to get to somewhere on time, but it can take me 20, 30 minutes to leave the. Why? Because I want to listen to a podcast. I want to just chill on the phone. I can get very distracted when I'm not actually, but no, I need to do something. I don't do things quickly.
Mm.
So, okay, we've talked about that. Tying shoelaces, it's a myth. But I still wanna. If you see some of my shoelaces, most of my shoelaces, especially my trainers, the tip has been threaded. If that
Yes.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Or maybe can we pause it so I can bring a shoe to describe it, or is
Yeah.
that too
Yeah. Yeah.
much?
You can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So can you see this?
Oh yes, I can see it.
That's very standard for trainers of my.
Uh-huh.
But you know that the top should have been plastic.
Yes, yeah.
But that's got from me not tying my shoelaces and me walking on it all the time. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Oh.
The inability to tie. Yeah, that's just an example, and most of my trainers are like that. Now, one people can say, but buy trainers that don't have shoelaces, but I still want to be fashionable, right? I
Yeah, I
did
get
that,
it.
and I did that, and Nike haven't been very inclusive when it talks to you about shoes. So, and then it's like formal things like ties, tying ties, but like if you think about it, especially like cufflinks, there's a lot of things, clothes that just require coordination. Notice that I'm talking about my day. I haven't left the house yet. Now I have to make sure that I remember my phone and my wallet. That's sticky. I haven't found my wallet for the last 5 days. Shout out to Apple Wallet with the iPhone thing. That's a saving
Yeah.
grace. So okay, now that I finally left my house, going to work, obviously that's standard because I know where I'm supposed to be and everything like that. I walk quite slowly, but I get there. But I don't really sometimes do I get there on time. I always get there a few minutes late. But luckily, one of the things for me is I've always been in academia. I did an internship with academia. I've worked in academia for well, and I think one of the benefits of academia is sometimes it's slower paced than corporates
Yeah.
and a bit more understanding because with an academic space is you're thinking about yes, you are thinking about the publication and the research, but you're not driven by profits like that. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes that's why I've stayed here and I haven't really ventured out into like the private sector. Even though private sector I could arguably be making a lot more than what I'm making now, it's good for me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
To
Because
stay in academic.
if you think about it, universities support neurodivergent students. So if they do that, imagine what they do to staff. Not to say that there's not difficulties, but that it is what it is. So I get to work now. I have a laptop and I have all these things with access to work. Everything's been patterned. You understand because I've known for a long time that I've been neurodivergent. So got to work. Listen, I always have my headphones in. I'm always listening to radio or podcasts, and just tuning into work. But work sometimes is difficult because I'm a researcher. There's a lot of documents to read, complicated medical journal jargon because I work in health economics. I find writing difficult and everything like that. And sometimes I just forget stuff. And even I've had like conversations with my manager even this week about there's certain things that because I've been working there for 6 years now. There's certain things that I now I need to step up. I need to get better at. But that's kind of like my general day. But I do that. But as I'm working, I'm also creating content. I'm also trying to create, and I've really tried to level up this month. But again, the only way I could do that is because I have a team around me.
Yeah.
My sister, my wife helps me with the recording. She helps me with emails and stuff like that. My sister-in-law has been helping with the editing. You see the revamp.
Yeah.
That's my sister-in-law. Shout out to my sister-in-law in Nigeria. She's in Abuja, just doing the edits and stuff like that.
Wow.
We talk about that, and it's
I need to
just
get your sister-in-law's details because I think my husband is looking for someone to do edits for his Instagram and for his
okay. Yeah. We
yeah.
need to. But this is why I talk about the power of teams and the power of
Mm.
having your unit. You understand what I'm saying? And that's kind of my day, and that's what I do. Sometimes there's church, sometimes there's coaching. I love to tell you that every day I plan and I schedule my day and I have my calendar and my diary. No, it doesn't work like that. I need to get like that, and very soon, by God's grace, I will have the funds to buy like to not buy but to have like like a personal assistant or an EA.
Yeah.
And because I put a post together about strategies for dyspraxic. And when I was creating that post, I had to reflect and be like, some of these strategies I just can't do, or I haven't been able to master them. Do you understand? But I
Yeah.
know that with the organization piece, I know how important organization and systems are if I want to get to where I want to be in life.
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying? If I want to be an entrepreneur and an academic and a person of impact, and I really want to scale, you can't do that without being organized.
Yeah.
Or
Or having systems.
not or having systems, or having somebody in your team that is organized, that can organize you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
Mm.
maybe I need a project manager. Like my wife is studying to be a project. She's doing the qualifications now. Do you understand? Because sometimes my mom used to say this: focus on your strengths and use money to get people to medicate your weaknesses.
Consist. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it means to work in teams. No man is an island. You work on teams. Do
No.
you understand? That's the same way. If you're struggling with your finances, you find an accountant. If you have a legal thing, you get a
You get
lawyer.
a lawyer.
It's the same thing. If you're struggling with organization, you find a personal assistant. However, these things cost, and we need to generate an income for for us to do
But
these
it's finding
things.
that balance of
Yeah,
what is worth more my time or my money. Can I
exactly.
forgo this in order for me to move forward? Because sometimes investing in things like that can help you make more money. So it's almost
Exactly.
finding that
However,
balance.
no. However, it is finding that balance. But sometimes when you're not earning enough to even do, you also have to
Mm,
look at your budget. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I think,
yeah.
yeah, it's that mindset. But investing in your team is incredible. Do you understand? I think I spoke to you earlier about my coach. Like having a mentor, you have to pay for something like because you have to value someone's time. Right? You get what you put in. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
luckily, with access to work, one of the things I have about access to work, and I'm trying to navigate this now, is that you can get support for your 9 to 5, but it looks like you need to do a separate application to get support for your business. And I don't want support just for my 9 to 5. I want support for everything I do. And but they're
Mm,
different because your line manager cannot give you support for your public speaking gigs. Do you understand? Because it's
no.
a different thing.
It's
And
different,
you
yeah.
know and you know that as a business to be eligible, there's a certain amount of money that you have to be turning over every year to be
Mm.
eligible. And one of my goals for this year is to make sure that I'm earning that amount so that I can be eligible for that. So it's not sometimes it's not as easy as get someone. We talk about mental health. Just find a therapist. We pay because it's a value. It's a value. It's an investment. And it's like, but
But
sometimes we
it's
do
even finding the right therapist as well
exactly
that
finding the
understands
right
your needs, yeah.
exactly. But not even just that. Some of us don't, and we say that it's an investment. Everyone was like, "Oh yeah, but you do know that it's just a Nando's, or it's just for going a trip to the cinema and stuff." But what if you're in a position where you're not even doing those things anyway? Do you understand what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
So we have to relate and understand that people are different. Do you understand? But because we know that okay, we need gym, we need a therapist, we need all these things. But there's a luxury and a privilege that gets to these things. Do you understand? So it's like I said originally, money gives you options. So we
Yeah,
need
it
to get that paper.
does. We
we
yeah,
need
we
to
all
keep,
need to get
we
paid.
need to get that paper.
I wanted to ask you more about the support your family has given you with your neurodiverse condition, and being dyspraxic, because you talked about the fact that you've been very fortunate, having a family that kind of understood your neurodiversity, but also have you faced maybe people seeing you different, maybe not directly in your family, but maybe outside of your family or within your community?
Okay, so it's interesting because I do have support from my family. I think one of the things that helped me, my mom's a pharmacist, so she was
Oh,
clinically, but also I think the fact that I was very different earlier on, I got the diagnosis very early. My parents did what they needed to do, and for example, and I'll say this, one of the um, you know, someone that has done a really amazing job in the neurodiversity space, well, especially in dyspraxia, is called Professor Amanda Kirby. I'm not sure if you know her, but I grew up with her books in my house. Like, my dad had leaflets of like like there was a dyspraxia and dyslexia and ADHD network that my dad was going to at 2007, 2008 just to support. These are times where there was no Google and stuff, but
There was nothing.
they
Yeah.
did what they could. Do you understand? When the funds were needed to be invested, the funds were there, and so
Mm.
that support was always there. Remember, it was just a reality. But I think sometimes looking back, I was one of five. I felt like my mom and dad sometimes put a lot of attention on me because of that. And also me being the oldest guy as well, that there was just a lot of attention and stuff. Like I'm very, very fortunate. But my siblings were always there as well. You know, there was a lot of can you help Timmy do this? Can you help Timmy do that? However, the older you get, you see that the family support is different. Or sometimes they can judge you. So my mom, for example, and I love my mom to bits, she helped everybody else to drive. She sat with them, drove. With me, she's like, sorry, I can't do it. She was just like, I've seen you bump into things when you're walking. You lack spatial awareness. She's just like,
She's too
no,
scared.
exactly. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I'm just like, how can you play me like that? But it's the reality. Do you
Yeah.
understand? And it's like kind of thing where sometimes where especially when you've been diagnosed so early,
Hmm.
there were sometimes when my parents would say you can't do something because you are dyspraxic. We're worried of you because we're there. So, for example, my dad. One of the reasons why we moved from Southeast London to Essex, my dad was like, you can't play with the guys on the street. If you had to
Mm.
run away from somewhere, you're the first one to get caught. Do you understand what I'm saying? You know how, like,
Mm.
when you're in the streets, not on the streets, but you know how there's railings and sometimes you have to jump over and you just, that's not, yeah. And this kind of
I
little thing,
you're talking about that southeast back in the yeah, I
yeah.
know.
So my mom and dad were like, nah, this isn't gonna work. Do you understand?
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like, they always encouraged me because one of the things that they told my doctor at that age was that my intelligence was above average. So they always
Mm.
reminded me that academics is your thing, that you got this, So yeah, like there has been support. There's also been support from friends and just family members as well. Because thanks, babe. Um just like kind of thing where because yeah, my community has always been there, especially out of school, cousins, friends, people that didn't just see they don't see the spectre, they just saw me.
Me, yeah.
But someone that was bubbly, someone that liked to joke. But when I was in school, it really knocked my confidence. I remember going from going in going to a sixth form open day, and my friend at the time, she saw me outside of school but engaged in other people my age. And she was just like, wow, you have such great charisma the way you interact. And I've never seen you like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it was just such a difference of, when you are, when when you're in your environment where people see you as less than. When I got to other places where people didn't see me like that, I really shone. You know, that's one of the reasons why I always tell people that the time that I discovered myself, self acceptance, was in university. Those days were the best days for me, in the sense that I feel like every neurodivergent person has that time, that coming
Yeah.
of age where you recognize your strengths, your weaknesses, and stuff.
Hmm.
You're like, this is me. That was university. And I'll tell you why. Because in university, my first year, there were issues with our ACS. People were complaining and stuff. And they said, why don't you run? Someone asked me, why don't I run to be ACS president? I was like, me? They were like, yeah. And I ran and I went for it. And I became ACS president of Exeter. And I led a committee of 8 people. And I was also on the committee of NIMA, which was the outreach, which was a Christian society, and the founder of NIMA was dyslexic as well, and he was all about raising up leaders and stuff. But that ACS thing, being that as a lost my train of thought. But being that as a student, like in university, I had so many friends, had so many, and it was a coming of age moment for me. Why? Because as president, I can suggest ideas, I can lead, I can think about wanting to do different things differently. But for the first time in my life, I didn't have to be the one that was responsible for execution. I can say, let's do this, or why don't we think about this event? And my social sec will sort it out. And the publicity sec we deal with marketing. I just have to make sure that we're leading and we're keeping this team spirit. And we changed the game for our ACS. And built a legacy. I remember on the election night, everybody brought wrote their speech and wrote it out like, this is what I'm going to do. I just spoke from my heart. I remembered my speech. I love it. And it was just like, there's certain characteristics and skills that I understood that I had that I only found out in uni. So I didn't realize that being an extrovert or people skills or being able to talk or leadership skills were actually important qualities, or being innovative and just seeing ideas, and all these type of things. Like I can remember in committee meetings always suggesting this, or I just want to put this out there. That was used to be my phrase, just putting these things out there, and it's realizing that unfortunately the way the employment system works is some of these skills that I'm mentioning that are my strengths, they're not really for entry level people. Some of these skills are associated with senior managers and C-suite executives. And sometimes that's what makes it difficult. Do you understand? Because if you've just come out of uni and you're applying for graduate jobs, telling someone that you have leadership skills, so what? Because whatever organization you come to, at the beginning, it's not about your leadership skills and all of those things. It's things that require executive function. It's detail orientation. It's about organization and stuff. But I'm more strategy, long term organization. Build that. Do you understand? And
I understand.
it's working these things out. I had a conversation with one of my line managers, and like, I want to lead. I want a project manager, and it's like, I know that, but you need to work. We need to know that you're technically enough to do the things you do at your level, so that you can work towards that.
Do you feel that's helpful for you as a neurodivergent person to hear that? And I know that's an interesting question for me to ask. But...
Interesting question. Maybe not, but I think sometimes it is the reality. But then I know this might be controversial, but like my employers may not hear this, but I know that my work, what I do from a 9 to 5, does not necessarily match my strength, and my skill set, 100%. Do you understand?
Okay.
However, I do it for a reason. I do it for a purpose. The purpose is, I work as a health economist. I work in health service research.
Yeah.
And I know that where I'm going and where I'm going in future, like the higher you get, you can lead projects and you can do these things. But why do I work in health service research as a health economist? Because I understand that health inequalities with ethnic minorities is a big thing. And as much as we want clinicians and we want nurses and doctors, we need researchers that look like us, people that can influence policy and stuff. Not just black people, but also neurodivergent people as well. Actually, people that actually get it and have that lived experience can actually now be talking to academics and say, actually, this is what you wrote, or this is what we need to do. Because I'll use this for an example. Think about the word intersectionality. That word didn't come from a celebrity or a politician. It came from a legal scholar, a legal academic in the 80s. And think about how we use it now. Do you understand? Like academia and stuff, even though it's a long game, it can shape society, can shape how we do things, how we think about things. And that's why, because of the long game, once you have a PhD and stuff like that, I'm like, if this is how much I charge for my talks now, imagine when I'm now Dr. Tumi. It's the
Dr.
packaging.
Tumi, I love it.
Do you understand? So you have to remember your why, and you keep on going. You keep on going. I think there's no such thing as the perfect job. Do you understand what I'm saying? And
No,
I feel like you said, I'm in my early 30s. I don't necessarily need the perfect job. As long as I know my why and the strategy is clear.
I feel like we don't have to have the perfect job, but we can pick the benefits and strengths from that role and play it to our advantage.
Exactly.
And you can still be a good employee and do a good job and perform well in your job, but also have other goals outside of work.
Exactly.
And we are multifaceted. We're human beings that we can be good at so many different things.
Exactly.
I can do my 9 to 5, be very good at it, come up with good ideas, satisfy the needs of my management, but also have, I have this podcast, I have other things, I have a membership that I'm running. So there's all these different things that I have outside of who I am in my workplace. And I think it should be more encouraged. I feel like there's this thing about portfolio careers now. A lot of people don't know that, where you can still somehow do a 9 to 5, but also be self-employed and navigating that kind of portfolio career, being a speaker, but also you're a researcher. And a lot of the time we don't always encourage that because people don't understand it. But it is something that it is possible for you to do, and it doesn't take away from what you do in your 9 to 5 neither.
Yeah. I think the first time I came across that term was from Onine. She talked about her portfolio career, but I felt like I was even listening to a video about this today, that in the next 7 to 10 years, your portfolio career is going to be very important. So what is it? What is your digital footprint saying? How do you add value? And I know that, for example, as an academic, as an early career researcher, not many people in academia have like the business or the brand on the side like I do. But imagine, because now what I've done, just very strategically, what I've built in the community and with the Black Dyspraxic. Now, when I want to do a PhD in the same space, when it comes to recruiting people or making sure that my research is actually making impact within the community, it's gold. Now, I have researchers contacting me every day saying, can I use your platform to recruit people, into my project and stuff like that, But I've built that up so that when I start doing my own research, it's making sense.
Yeah. So I always like to end the podcast.
So it's coming to the end?
It's coming to the end! But we're enjoying ourselves so much, but it's coming to the end. And I always like to ask people what are the 3 strengths of being neurodivergent, and what are the 3 weaknesses? Let's start with the weaknesses and then we end with the strengths, and then we'll close the podcast.
Being neurodivergent or being dyspraxic or both?
You could do both. Yeah.
Okay. So the weaknesses with being neurodivergent, again, it's different from everybody. If you've met one neurodivergent, you've only met one neurodivergent. It's really important to. So some of the weaknesses could be executive functioning, organization, big forgetfulness. Yeah. Me as a dyspraxic, I struggle to read. Like there's books that I buy and I'm like, I love that title, but for me reading the book, it's another story. Do you understand?
Audiobooks.
Yeah. Now I was about to say that. Thank God for Audible. But I will tell you that some of the best neurodiversity books are not actually on the Audible version. Do you understand? That's another. But Audible is really it's been a game changer. But actually, I'm now in this place where I actually want to discipline myself to get into reading actual books as well, just because it's important. And I know that affected my ability to do English when I was younger, and that's why I became into science and maths, because there were less writing. So there's that as well. Um, yeah, there's many things.
Positives.
So positives, innovative, original thinkers,
Yes.
resilient,
Yeah.
empathetic. Another thing that I didn't say, I think neurodivergent people, but especially myself as a dyspraxic, were jokers. When when somebody has made fun of you so much, and you've been the object of a joke so many times, you know how to take banter. Do you understand? I don't take myself too seriously. Do you understand? And that is something. And it's always being an optimist as well.
Yeah, to me, you give that optimism like to the next level. That like it's been a joy having you on this podcast, because you bring so much vibrancy, so much positivity, so much your resilience, and your hard work is just like resonates in this podcast episode. And I'm looking so forward to when I edit it and put it out, because like I always probably say this, but like you're one of my favorite podcast guests because of the fact you give so much good energy. So
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank
I
you.
love it. I love it. And I'm definitely sure the audience members and my listeners would absolutely love this episode. Yes, it's going to be going on YouTube and also on all the platforms that you can find podcasts. You can listen to myself and Tumi. And before you go to me, where can people find you? Because that's so important. We need to promote you. You're a speaker. You have a social influence. Please, where can people find you if they were looking for you? And I will put all the information of Tumi in the show notes to find him as well.
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter as the Black Dyspraxic, LinkedIn as Tumi Shotover. And also you can check out my new website that I launched earlier this month in April, theblackdyspraxic.com.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Tumi, for being here.
This was excellent. And I don't know, maybe you put this in front, but I remember coming across your podcast and the way you were just talking. I think you really just talked about your faith and just seeing how you talk to your husband, seeing how you talk to, and yeah, I was like, who is this Sarah? And how can we be friends? How can we connect? Do you understand? So that's why I DM'd you that day, and yeah, so I'm happy to be on here now.
Oh, amazing. I'm going to keep putting out these podcast episodes as much as I can and meeting more and more neurodivergent people that can tell their story and what their life has been, and also navigating the corporate world and the business world as neurodivergent individuals. So thank you so much to me. You've been amazing. I just want to let our audience members know about the 6-week coaching program that I'll be offering for people who are neurodivergent or who want to improve their career prospects in general, or for those who want to get into project management. You can also be non-neurodivergent as well. I mentioned this in the previous episodes, but I just want to make the time to offer it up to those who may be looking for help in those areas in their life, as it's a great way to learn a new skill to help you advance in your career. I'm also offering support to people who want to pass the Prince 2 practitioner exam, because I have taken and failed the test a few times and would like to help others, showing them how I passed. I'm also launching my membership, Neuroenigma, in which you will get a supportive community, career and business mentorship, monthly group coaching calls, networking opportunities, mental health wellbeing days, and unlimited body doubling sessions. And we also want to meet in the UK and very soon international meetups. I'm also working with the British Dyslexia Association and Lexic, one of the UK's biggest neurodiversity organisations, to ensure our members get full free neurodivergency assessments, accredited with an educational psychologist or doctor. If this sounds like something you are interested and like to learn more, please reach out and talk to me directly about the membership. Please follow me on all platforms where you listen to podcasts. Thank you for listening to Divine Enigma. And if you got to the end, this is a safe place for project managers and professionals, side hustlers and business owners to give you the tools and tips on how to navigate the complexity of being neurodiverse in the workplace. I'll see you soon.